As diplomatic efforts recede, military concerns move front and center globally. Joining us tonight is retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, now senior fellow and military expert for defense priorities. Colonel, the Russian-backed separatist in Ukraine asked Moscow, send in troops. We need to ward off aggression. What does that tell you?
Well, I mean, that tells you that they're following the script, and the script has been written in Moscow probably for months, and everything is just going according to what I'm pretty sure is their plan. And now that they have, quote, been invited in, and now then here they come. And, based on what Zelensky said today, based on the fact that Russia evacuated its embassy and all of its consulates, it's the last minute, and probably things are starting to move, maybe even as we speak.
As you say, the last minute, because Newsy has confirmed the U.S. did tell Ukraine intel indicates a full invasion could happen within 48 hours. Ukraine's president is out there on TV appealing to Russians directly, saying we want peace, we do not want war. But, of course, last week the U.S. said 48 to 72 hours invasion's happening. That didn't happen. What makes us so sure this time?
Well, I mean, nobody's for sure. I mean, there's always a possibility that things could turn and that diplomacy would still have a chance. But one of the things I think that precluded it up in those most recent times you're talking about was that both Biden and Blinken and really all of the West said, yeah, we want diplomacy. We want to talk this through. But the one thing we're not going to talk about is closing NATO's open door. And that is the one thing that Putin has said since 2007. 15 years he's been saying, if you bring NATO up to our doorstep in Ukraine, then that's a red line. And he has shown already twice that he's willing to use force. And I think that may have been his last chance to say, then you're not going to talk about this diplomacy. Now I'm going to take with action what you wouldn't negotiate in discussions. And I think that's where we're at. And I think the fact that you saw Zelensky now taking this action and the Russian embassy has been evacuated, I think that's a big difference.
Colonel, if you could help us look just a few days, maybe weeks into the future. The New York Times reports, quote, the Ukrainian capital Kyiv was established hundreds of years before Moscow, and both Russians and Ukrainians claim it as a birthplace of their modern cultures, religion, and language. I don't think many people realize the tie that Moscow feels to Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital. Do you believe Russia's going to sack Kyiv?
No, I don't. And yes, you're absolutely right. It is. I mean, it's almost like a religious importance to the Russian people. And no, I don't think they're going to sack Kyiv at all. As a matter of fact, I think all of these claims that, the Russia's going to take Kyiv, they're going to take Kharkov, they're going to take Odessa, maybe in the south. I think all that is a misinformation campaign to make the Ukrainians try to defend it. But look, Russia's big advantage over Ukraine is that they have a powerful, mobile, armored force. And the last thing you're going to do is you're going to tie that up in a city fight, which is among the most intensive fights and bloody fights that there are. That would slow his army down. What I think he's probably going to do is he's going to bypass all these cities, penetrate these trench lines, go into the rear, and roll up the Ukrainian armed forces from the rear. And then once he dispatches, the bulk of their armed forces, there's nothing left to defend the cities. And then I think he starts negotiating. But I don't think he's going to attack the city. He just doesn't have the troops for it.
Wow. Okay. I hadn't heard that anywhere. That's very, very good to know. Now, in Ukraine, we were just showing this of people going and buying guns. We're seeing men up to 60 years old being called up into military service. You're not calling up the 59-year-olds in your population unless you're really in dire straits. Regular citizens are out there buying guns thinking, I'm going to defend my family, my house. I don't know. Russia is a military superpower. What are the odds of them fighting back successfully? I doubt that there's any doubt, rather, that they're going to fight viciously. But the quantitative difference between the Russian and Ukrainian armed forces is more stark than the qualitative difference in terms of the numbers, because Russia has had literally decades of intensive modernization. They've reformed their military. They changed how they're even organized for combat, and they have rehearsed it for year after year after year on large-scale maneuvers. Ukraine, and many people don't know this, but in 2014, their whole army was a combined 6,000 people. Now it's up to about 150,000, but you can't grow an army overnight, and they're not able to match what the Russians could do. They'll go through them like hot knife through butter. They just can't stand. Wow.
Retired Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, the next several hours, as you lay that out, could wind up in history books. We thank you, sir.